Okay, Droogies, here we are at the end of the runway in Shelter Cove. We're going to take off. I'm going to take you out of the airfield a little bit because I need to explain some things to you if you're to learn to land a light aircraft, okay, in X-Plane 11. So, I'm going to take off. I'm going to explain the following. You're going to take off. We're going to have a little chat and take off. Then I'm going to skip ahead till we get some height. Then we're going to talk about trimming. And we're going to talk about how to control our speed and our rate of descent. Now, our speed, I'm going to have to use a mouse, is here. Knots are on the outside, 40 knots, 60 knots, 80 knots, 100 knots. In between the 40 and the 60 is 50 knots. In between the 80 and the 60 knots is 70 knots. 70 knots is very important for coming into land and taking off, okay? This is our vertical speed indicator. If the needle goes up, we're climbing. If the needle goes down, we're descending. For 500 feet a minute, and each notch is 100 feet a minute. This is our altitude. Not particularly worried about that at the moment. And this is our heading, 360 degrees in a circle, and this is our heading. We're heading about 310. So when you're flying in these aircraft for real, you're looking outside 99% of the time, just like you are in a car. So this is very important, and I'll use the mouse just to express that when we're up. Okay, so let's go up, take off. We'll have a quick talk about the takeoff, because I know most of you who start an X-Plane, that's the easiest part. Now I'm going to get rid of this silly little iPad here. I don't know what it's for. I don't really care. But it's really annoying when it's in the way. Right, let's take off. Right, I don't need flaps. I'll take the flaps up. Now, actually, before I start, this guy here, do you see this guy here? This is a trim wheel, okay? This is everything in flying light aircraft, okay? Very important. You need to configure your buttons either on the side of your control yoke, your joystick, somewhere, okay? This is very important. Now, there's trim nose pitch up in your settings, and there's trim nose down in your settings. So you need to configure that. I have my button, and if I push forward, it trims nose down. If I trim back or towards me, it trims nose up. That's very important, okay? So you need to configure those settings. If you don't know how to configure the settings, please leave a comment and I'll explain another video on how to do that. Okay, so let's just take off and we'll talk about the trim wheel. Very important to configure those buttons, please. So if you haven't got that configured or you don't know anything about the trim wheel, do go and configure those buttons or give me another comment and I'll put a video in the next day. Okay, now let's just take off. So I'm going to make sure my trim is set for takeoff, and we'll have full power. Brakes are off. Now my rudder pedals are a little bit messed up here because I got the cheap ones, so I have to use differential braking in order to keep the aircraft on the center line. So off we go. We're barreling down the runway, and guess what? The aircraft will take off itself. I'm just going to apply a little bit of back pressure in my control column, just do a wheelie, and it will take off between 55 and 60 knots. Okay, up we go, and we're off. We don't have to worry about the gear because the gear is fixed and it's Cessna 152, and up we go. Now, okay, what am I doing? I'm just doing this automatically, so forgive me. So let's just say you're taking off and you're going, okay, grand, I'm off the ground, what a lovely view, happy days. Now, I'm going at 85 knots. I should be climbing at a speed, right? And the best speed for the best rate of climb is 70 knots, which is this one here. How do I get that? Well, I'm going to pitch up. I'm going to put the horizon 9 inches below. The horizon is here. I'm going to put the horizon 9 inches below the end of the cowling, which is the end of the aircraft, like the bonnet of a car. I'm pushing that 9 inches, or maybe 10 in this, because this is a powerful 152. And, you know, in the real thing, you could extend your arm and full palm of your arm. If you put your right arm fully forward, between your little finger and your thumb will be the distance for about 9 inches. But look, that's for another day's work. So now, I'm pitching for that speed. I'm pitching. I have full power. I can't do anything to get more speed except for pitching. So as I pitch up, by the way, look at this. As I pitch up, we slow down. Look, it's going to 60 knots. See? If I lower the nose, I still have full power. I haven't touched, can't get any more power. The airspeed increases. So how do we control our speed? We pitch for speed. Now I'm going to turn a little bit towards the sea so you get a better horizon, okay? You get a little bit of a better horizon so you can see it. Now, there we go. We've got a horizon, nice horizon here. So now, I'm pitching at 70 knots. So I'm playing, you got to play around with this and you'll find that. Okay, you will find that you'll find that picture. So the picture between the end of the cowling, the distance between the end of the cowling and the horizon, or the horizon to the end of the cowling. That's what I'm looking at. Now, if I let go of the control column, nose goes down. because I'm applying back pressure to keep the nose where it is. Look at that, it's out of control now, it's all over the place. So we're descending like a God knows what, and our speed's increasing. So I'm going to put that picture back, right? I'm going to put the picture back for 9 inches from the horizon to the cowling, and I'm going to wait. You got to be patient. That's the speed. You know, it's momentum. We got to wait for a while. Now think of a bicycle rolling up a hill. If you are a wheel freewheeling up a hill, if the hill gets steeper, the wheel's going to slow down. If it goes downhill, it's going to accelerate, isn't it? Well, that's the same principle here, if you like. Now, so I'm pitching. I'm lowering the nose because I know I'm going to be too slow. I'm looking here at my speed. I'm 65 knots. So I'm going to lower the nose a little bit, and there we go. So I'm pitching, but when I let go, the nose goes down. Okay, so I'm going to level off here. I'm going to turn to the left, and we're going to get a bit of a horizon. Sorry about the arrow. I just need that to point things out to you. So now I'm going to level off to what's called straight and level flight. So I'll level the wings. Now what I'm doing is I'm lowering the nose first. So it's attitude first. Pitch, nose down. I'm pushing the horizon 2 inches above the end of the cowling. And then I'm taking the power back to 2200 RPM. That is the RPM indicator. That is your power setting. So the second notch from the 20 is 2200 RPM. 2200 RPM. Now, I'm pushing the horizon 2 inches above the end of the cowling. That distance, I reckon, from my seated position is 2 inches. Oh, look, the vertical speed indicator is saying 0. Okay? Now, you cannot in a real aircraft follow the vertical speed indicator because it has lag. Now, the simulator doesn't necessarily have lag. I don't think this one does not. Okay, so I'm getting that picture, and this is called attitude flying, okay? Now, I've got 2200 RPM, and at 2200 RPM, in this 110 horsepower engine, I get 85 knots, okay? Now, if I keep that picture of the horizon above the cowling, that'll be level flight, okay? Level flight, 85 knots, pretty much level, and there we go, okay? Okay, so let's turn so we get a little bit of features there. I'm just turning a little bit steep, nice and 45 degrees there, happy days. Very sensitive in the simulator, so it is harder than the real thing. Yes, it is, but that's good practice. It's harder in the simulator, it's going to be easier for you in the real thing. So I'm getting back up to my 2,500 feet. I'm just sneaking the nose up a little bit, and I'm not really concerned about altitude today. We'll do that another day. Now, okay, so let's talk about pitch for speed. We talked about a little bit about that. So look at this, we're 80 knots, lower the nose. You know we're going to accelerate like a bicycle rolling down a hill. See it? Raise the nose up above the horizon. Up we go. Airspeed slows down. Okay. Now let's do a descent. Okay. Now I'm going to reduce my power. Now forgive me. I know it's a simulator, but I'm going to pull the Carb Heat hot. I'm going to leave a link, by the way, for what the Carb Heat does. It's very important in real flying, not so much in the flight simulator. Okay. So I'm going to then reduce the power. There's the power. Reduce it there. An amount. Doesn't matter what. You hear the engine change noise, and the nose wants to go down. Look. If I let go of the control column, the nose goes down. And what happens when the nose goes down? We accelerate. So I want 70 knots. So I'm looking dead ahead outside, and I'm looking to see where the horizon is in relation to the end of the cowling. So I'm leaving it here. I'm leaving it there, right? And I'm looking in and going, okay, I want 70 knots. We got 75-ish. So I'll raise the nose a bit more. So just keep it there. You got to be patient. You've got to be really patient. You've got to go up and practice this before you learn how to land really, certainly in real life, okay? Now, I'm going to be trimming. I haven't taught you trimming properly yet. So now 70 knots. There we go. So I'm pitching for my speed. Power. What's the power? Here's the power here. Get my mouse to show it. There's the power. And the RPM tells us how much power we have. Okay. So I'm going to keep that at 70 knots now. Okay. So let's have a look at power. It's very fidgety in the simulator. There we go. Take a little bit more power. 1500 RPM. We leave it at. And we want 70 knots. Okay, so it's just taking a bit of a while to respond in the simulator. Now, okay, we've got 70 knots. We are descending at 400 or 500 feet a minute at 70 knots. Okay, takes a while to settle. 500 feet a minute thereabouts. I'm going to add a little bit of power. Little bit. There we go. But I'm going to keep my 70 knots. Okay, and I'm going to wait for it to settle. Now I've got to raise the nose a bit because I'll go too fast, won't I? So I'm raising the nose. I want 70 knots. There we go, we've got 70 knots. And if you keep that, 70 knots, ooh, our rate of descent now is 200 feet a minute. So by adjusting our power and increasing it, we have reduced our rate of descent. Okay? And that's how fast we're going towards the ground, effectively a minute. So we're going there about 200 feet a minute. Okay? So pitch for speed, and power. for a rate of descent. Okay. Now, anything I left out? I do not think so. But just remember, you've got to configure your trim wheel. Okay. And when you load up the sim, you'll find the trim wheel and you'll be good. So remember, you got to trim for pitch nose up and you got to trim for pitch nose down. Okay. Now, by the way, every time you change the flaps, speed setting, any configuration change in the outside of the aircraft, be it gear, flaps, speed, or power, should I say, you have to retrim. So you're trimming all the time. Here, my little clicky button. I got a little button on the top of my yoke, the yoke here on the left side of it. You can't see it obviously in here, but I might do an egg clip, and I can use that all the time. And you're always trimming all the time because you don't want to be maintaining a force in the control column. Because look, here's what happens. I'll give you a demo of what happens. Okay. And I'm climbing. I'm looking out. Remember we did the climb, 70 knots. Up we go. Hold it steady. I'm looking outside. And I want my 70 knots. I'm looking in briefly just to see. Now, I haven't trimmed, but I'm climbing. Okay. If I let go of the control column, nose goes down, we accelerate. Okay. Now, when I level off, if I'm going to trim it now, okay, I'm going to trim it for the climb. You can hear, hopefully you can hear the clicky, my trim button there. Now, I'm trimmed. I'm letting go. And it's not lowering the nose so much, okay? Now, as I'm trimmed, I'm going to level off. And to level off, you attitude to lower the nose so the horizon is 2 inches above the cowling. Then I bring the power back to cruise setting, which is 2200 RPM. Whoops, right? You know why that happened? Now, I'm applying a forward pressure on the control column. And of course, the minute I looked over here that time, I let go with my left hand. Okay, because it's human nature. Okay, people can only do one thing at a time, except for pilots, of course. Right, so I'm going to let go of the control column. I'm going to relax and look. Oh, look at the lovely eye candy scenery, isn't that lovely? And I let go of the control column, and up we go. So it's very awkward if you're not trimmed. So if I lower the nose, put it back to my attitude for level flight, trim forward. Okay, trim forward. Not so much that the nose goes down again. Yeah. Pretty much trim there. I've let go of the control column. Let go, and there we go. Don't have to change anything. So that's trimming. That's power for rate of descent and pitch for speed. Let's go into the circuit and do some landings. Okay, here we are on the end of the runway in Shelter Cove. And we're going to take off and we're going to do what's called a circuit. A circuit is what student pilots use to learn how to fly. You do everything here. You do climbing turns, straight and level turns, straight and level flight, descending turns, and approach and landing. So you do everything in the circuit. So you'll see as we go what a circuit is. Basically, it's a rectangular pattern to the left of the runway, so we'll take off dead ahead. We get to 500 feet, we'll take a left turn by 90 degrees, then we'll take another left turn by 90 degrees, and then we come down the runway, and we'll be parallel to the runway. Then we'll take another 90-degree turn for what's called base, and then we'll turn final for landing. Okay, so let's just go ahead now. In this Cessna 152, it's a bit dim, it's a bit not very bright. So I'll take off the control column and switch on the dome light. Ah, that's better. Much better. Okay, so here we are. Let's go. Let's add full power. Flaps are up. We're all good. We're all trimmed. And full power. And off we go. Now, my pedals are not the best. I have to use differential braking just to keep the center of the runway. So I've got to figure that out somehow. There we go. Now the rudder's working. Okay, so here we are. So I'm barreling down the runway. And I'm just doing a wheelie. I'm going to apply back pressure in the control column just so the nose wheel comes up a little bit. Now after that, the aircraft will actually take off on its own. Up we go. There we go. It'll take off on its own. It knows how to fly better than you do. So off we go. Now, remember we were outside the airfield and I wanted to climb out at 70 knots. Look, a bit fast, so I raised the nose a bit more. Remember that 9 inches? Now I have to tell you, I said 9 inches. That depends on how tall you are, right? I could be real tall and sitting up here. Okay, or it could be really small. So your view will change according to your seat position, okay? So be mindful of that at least. There's 500 feet. Now I'm going to take a left-hand turn, no more than 20 degrees. And I've got a bit of back pressure. So what should I be doing? I should be trimming so I don't have to maintain a back pressure. Look, trim, 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 trim nose up. Now I can just fly with my fingertips. You want to fly with your fingertips all the time, okay? So now we're turning crosswind. And I'm going to have a look out. I'm going to level the wing. Okay, I turned a bit too much, so that's 90 degrees, that's crosswind. And then we're going to turn for downwind. We're going to be parallel to the runway. Now we're climbing very fast in this Cessna 150, it's very powerful. So we'll level off there, and I'm going to get my 1,000 feet, so it's attitude, lower the nose. Remember the straight and level flight? Put the horizon 4 inches above the cowling, power back, to 2200 RPM, and trim. I got to trim forward. Look, trim, trim, trim. So I can let go of the control column and fly with my fingertips. So we're pretty much parallel. Now we've got time to think, okay? So you can enjoy the view and whatnot. We can do pre-landing checks, brakes off, gears fixed, G's and P's and green mixes, with Carb Heat, hot belts and harness secure, landing light on, Carb Heat, cold landing checks complete, blah, 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 blah. Flicky, 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 switchy, switchy, switchy. Okay, so now we're in downwind, so straight and level flight. Now, because I'm trimmed, I'm just very gently bringing the nose up and down to make sure I have my 1000 feet. I'm looking out at the runway. I'm going to wait till I'm 45 degrees, till the end of the runway is 45 degrees over my left shoulder, and that's about it. So now what we're going to do, now I'm going to come out a bit further than usual, okay? So what I'm going to do, I want to slow down. We're about 85 knots. So what do I do first? Well, okay, I'm going to put the Carb Heat hot, okay? That's, I'll leave a link there about that. Carb Heat hot. I'm going to bring the power back an amount there, roughly. And the nose is going to go down, isn't it? But I want 70 knots. So what have I got to do? I've got to bring the nose up. I've got to apply back pressure on the control column. I've got to trim back. Now I'm going to turn for base. 90-degree turn. Now, as I'm turning, you can hear me trimming all the time for 70 knots. Okay? There we go. I've got 70. So now I can pitch with my fingertips. I got the 70 knots. So we're coming down an amount. Okay, I know the vertical speed indicator is going up and down like yo-yo, because it's not like the real thing. It would be a bit more, it wouldn't be as sensitive, okay, because the real thing has lag. So now I'm looking at it and I'm guessing, am I too high, am I too low? Now this is, there's no instrument to tell you how to land. This is, it looks about right, okay? It looks about right. That's all I'm doing. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I think that'll be okay. I'm going to turn final at about no less than 500 feet. So that looks okay. We've got about 500 feet a minute. I'm looking at the runway. Now I'm going to turn. How do I know when to turn? Well, I'm turning now, okay? I imagine the runway extending past. I'll add a bit of power here because I'm descending too much. Because I imagine the center line running past into infinity, and I want to, when that goes across the nose, I kind of turn. But you can look out with the Oculus Rift. It's great. Now, here we are now. I want to get my 70 knots. I'm going a bit fast. Now, keep your 70 knots. Now, you see the way the runway is still in the window. It's not going down the window underneath the aircraft, and it's not going up the window. If it was going down the window, okay, we'd be going too high. If the airfield was going, or the runway is going up the window, it would be going too low. But it's still in the window. Look at that. It's just still. And if you can imagine our trajectory, where we'd end up. So I'm adding a bit of power. I'm just making sure I keep that picture all the way down, okay? I'm doing nothing. I'm doing absolutely nothing because I'm trimmed. I don't have to be going, bringing the nose up and down. I'm trimmed. Now, when we get to the height of a double-decker bus of 20 feet, about now, I take all the power off. I code it level. I'm holding it level now. I don't want to land. Now, it's going to come down now. And as it comes down, I bring the nose up. There we go. There's the wheels touching down. Nose up. Now, I'm going to go do it again. So, full power. Doing a little bit of wheelie there. Full power. And it's going to take off on its own. Okay? There we go. Up we go. What do I want? 70 knots. We'll do one more of these. I want to keep my heading, because then I'll go off skew away. So I'm keeping a rough heading, and I'm keeping everything as I'm looking. These hills are over here. They're in the same place in the windscreen, and I know I'm keeping my heading because that's how you keep constant heading. So I'm going up again to 500 feet. Flaps are up, G's and P's and green, landing light off. Gears fixed as I know. And I'm trimming all the time. You hear the clicky clicky? Trimming nose up, trimming nose up. Now I'm going to turn at 500 feet. So I'll take a nice left-hand turn. Now I'm a little bit slow, so I'm lowering the nose a smidge, because I'm pitching for speed. Power is for rate of descent. Okay. Now, why 70 knots? Well, 70 knots is our best approach speed, and for climb, it's called VY, our best rate of climb. Okay. Now I'm going to have a look. There we go, pretty much 90 degrees, and then we'll turn for downwind. I'm not going to do a big, massive, huge American circuit, because you always want to make a glide approach. So we're still climbing. I'm going to turn for downwind now. Okay, turning for downwind, and there we go. Now, we've got a few hundred feet to climb, so I'm going to climb at 70 knots. So I'm pitching for speed, trimming all the time. I don't want to have to apply force on my control column, okay? Now, I'm doing nothing. It's climbing. I'll have my hands off the control column. Now I've got to level off about 50 feet before 40 feet. Attitude, lower the nose, straighten level flight. Attitude, power back to 22. There we go. And trim. I've got to trim nose forward, otherwise the nose goes up. Okay, looking at the runway again with my Oculus Rift, happy days. So now we're fat, dumb and happy. And if you want to do your try and win checks, if you like brakes, off gears, fixed D's and B's and mixes, which got beat up, that's not secure landing, land off, control landing checks, landing at off landing checks complete. Blah, blah, blah. I got a bit tongue tied there. Now you don't do your landing checks that fast. It's just we're not in the real thing. So, oh look, my Carb Heat's sitting out there. Look, I'm not particularly concerned as it's a flight sim. Now, we're fat, dumb and happy up here, and I'm just constantly trimming and putting the horizon 2 inches, 3 inches above the cowling, and that's giving me my picture. Now, remember, if you're sitting taller, it might be 5 inches. If you're if you're sitting lower, it might be less. So it depends on how tall you're sitting, okay? But you got to find that picture. It's called attitude flying. So have a look. Okay, we're going way out here, but that's no big deal. I want to do a nice long approach because I want to talk to you about things I didn't get a chance to talk to you about the last time. Now, what do? We're going to slow down. We're doing about 90 knots, okay? So what do? I put the Carb Heat hot. I'll bring the power back to 2200 RPM. And let's lower 10 flaps. Look at the flap lever. Yeah, lower 10 flaps. What do flaps do? They cause you drag. They slow you down, and they also allow you to fly slower safely. But that's another day's work. We'll talk about that later. So we'll have a better view. With the flaps down, we'll have a better view, okay, in simple terms. But that's another day's work. I'll do another video of that if anyone asks. So I'm turning for base now, and I'm pitching for 70 knots. I've taken not enough power off this time, so I'll take a little bit more. I'm not taking a lot of power off because I'm far away from the runway. I'm far away. So now I'm trimming those up, and I'm guessing that looks about right. Where will I end up? So I'm descending at about 250 feet a minute at 70 knots. You see, I have my 70 knots all the way down, okay? So that looks fine. And you give it a bit of time now to talk on the radio or do whatever you need to do. So here we go. We get 10 flaps. I don't need any more flaps. So we'll come down now, and you'll see a different approach this time. I'm going to have full flaps. I'm going to come in high on purpose, just so you see a different picture. So we might do that in another video. So I imagine the runway extending all the way past, and the minute I cross it, the nose crosses that imaginary, I turn to the left. Okay. Now I decrease in speed. See my rate of descent goes up on the turn. That's because when you turn, you got more drag. More drag, you descend more. You slow down. Okay. So there we go. I'm just going to get the runway underneath my body. Okay. Now, there we go. Now, what am I looking for? I want the runway, the aiming point of where I'm going to touch down at the same place in the windscreen all the time. If the aiming point, I'm looking about, see there where the tire marks are on the runway? That's where I'm aiming for, okay? So, I'm making sure that the runway doesn't go underneath the aircraft, underneath the cowling. There goes my control column on the floor. So this is going to be interesting. So, adding a little bit of power. And I'm just making sure, see, it's all still in the window. Now I'm getting a bit slow. What do I do about that? Lower the nose and add a bit of power. Okay. Then it'll eventually come back up to 70 knots. There we go. So I'm going to leave the flaps now because my whole control column has fallen to the floor. Okay. So here we go. So it's the same picture all the way down. Okay. All the way down. I'm just adjusting my pitch and my power. Now, when I get, again, you look for a height of a double-decker bus. Now, the Oculus Lift does work a bit. Start at the end of the runway and use your peripheral vision, what little you have. Right, so take all the power off at 20 feet, height of a double-decker bus, raise the nose, that's the round out, and now we're flaring. I'm bringing the nose up. I don't want to land, so I'm bringing the nose up, but I don't want to lose sight at the end of the runway. There's the wheels, and we're touched down. The nose wheel will come down on its own. I'm not letting go of the control column. There we go. So it's a nice smooth landing there, okay? Excellent. So that is a demonstration for landing. Now, this is a very, very, very quick tutorial. Anyone have any comments? Anyone wanted me to do a bit more detailed on the approaches and how to land on Explain 11? Do let me know. Close enough to the real thing, I have to say. It is, but never take flight simming. Never take it as you can fly a real aircraft from the flight simulator. Do not do that. If you're kind of, oh, I'm just starting my PPL and I'm going to get the Cessna 150 from Jess Flight and I'm going to learn before I get there. Do not do that because you will learn bad things, okay? What you do is you go to your instructor, because I know you're going to use it anyway, right? Go to your instructor, and when you've done something like turns, you do it in the simulator because you're doing it the right way. When you do circuits, after you've done a few circuits with your instructor, you know, then you say, look, I got a flight sim, is it a good idea? And he'll tell you what not to do, because it's very important not to learn bad habits, okay? So keep safe, and hope you enjoyed this quick video, and do leave a comment for more, very important. And that is all I have to say about that. So that was a very brief description of how to do a circuit and landing in a Cessna 150. Do please subscribe and like, and whatever you do, don't do this. Jesus Christ, what's happening? Holy Balls! Ology!